Hello. All right. How is everybody? Good. If you're new to Unity, on Sunday mornings we gather together and we just talk about life. Why are we here? Where did we come from? What's our purpose? Where are we going? Is there a God? And if that God does exist, what does God expect of us? What does God want us to do? And there's two spiritual principles that come into play here. The first is that there's one power in this entire universe. Now, when I say that, I say there isn't a God and there isn't a devil, there isn't a good force and there isn't an evil force vying or competing for our souls. It's just one power. 14 billion years ago, there was nothing, just a vast, empty universe, so to speak. And then the Big Bang happened. And the Big Bang came forth. It started very small. It expanded out millions and millions and millions of miles in less than a second. But the point is, that was one thing. There wasn't a multitude of different powers. There wasn't two different forces going on. It was just one thing. It was God, just God. In over 14 billion years, this power, this spirit, this energy has gone on to evolve into everything that you see. Every single thing that you see in this world and in the universe, including you and me. This spirit, this energy, this God power is the essence of our being. Now what that means is we're all different. We live in a very diverse world. We look different, we feel different, we think different, we have different likes, we have different dislikes. When it comes to physical appearance, we look different. You get beneath the skin, we all have cells and a bone structure that make up our physical being. Beyond that, there are molecules and then there are atoms, and at the very essence of our being, there is this energy, and it's exactly the same for all of us. So when we talk about inequality or we talk about worthiness, we are all the same. Everybody's worth matches up. So, with this incredible power that is the essence of our being, we are endowed with certain attributes that we are not aware of or that we totally underestimate. You are much, much wiser than you think you are. You have much, much power and much, much more strength to withstand difficult times than you think you do. You have much more imagination and creativity than you think you do. We have this incredible round of spiritual attributes that allow us to move through, rise above, overcome anything that hampers our peace of mind and our sense of well-being, no matter what the problems are. And I know there's difficult things that happen in life. Many of you are facing problems right now, and they're uncomfortable and they're disturbing, and sometimes they even hurt. But you do have the power within you to make it through and to move beyond. Sometimes I hear stories about people that have undergone incredible hardships and difficult times, and I wonder to myself, how do they do that? How on earth could I do that? I don't think so. But they do, and they go on to live very, very successful lives. Such is the life of Shannon Humphrey. She's a perfect example of what I'm talking about when it's drawing on your inner spiritual powers to move through obstacles that seem to be insurmountable. And I brought her here today to talk to you a little bit and share with us how she overcame some of these hardships that most of us will never experience. So Shannon, would you come forward? Left or right?
Either way. Whatever.
Okay. I'll take the left.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Thanks.
Well, Shannon, I have known you for, 15 years probably. And I knew you before things happened in your life, some joyous and some not so joyful. And you became a mother when?
I became a foster parent about 12 years ago, and we have been a legal family for 10 years now.
Wow, congratulations. And you have 3 kids?
I do. Down there, you guys want to wave?
Stand up and give them a good wave.
Yep. They have great kids.
So they came into your life, and then you also got a job.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was working prior to that, and my job, I had the first year I was working, I had a parent ask me to take her child she wasn't able to take care of the child, and that happened the first year, and then it happened again the second year, and I realized that we had a real issue here, and I decided to go through the appropriate channels and become a foster parent, and that's how we came to be.
And did you do that on your own, or did you have a partner that you did it
I
with?
was on my own, but when I decided to do that, I bought the house next door to my mom, who's sitting right there, knowing that my mom and dad would be able to help me. And no offense to any of you three wonderful kids, but I also only planned to have one child. And I got triply blessed and
Yes.
had three. But it was, kind of like what did I get myself into? But I'd been teaching long enough and been involved with working with children that I knew that it was one of those, if not me, then who is going to step up? And somebody at that point, I was told, needed to step up, where they were at that point in their lives where they needed someone to commit.
Well, it sounds very much like a fairy tale. It's you being blessed by three wonderful children. You have your parents as a support system. Everything is moving along fine. But then something happens.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I had been having some back problems and things like that, and going to the doctor thought that it was probably just wear and tear of my body from working hard. And unfortunately, I found out I was diagnosed with cancer, and a severe type of cancer. It's very aggressive, a blood cancer called multiple myeloma. And it's in the family kind of leukemia and lymphoma. And at that time, a pretty big percentage of my plasma was cancerous. And when I first got diagnosed, it hit all of us, my family, pretty hard. But we had that moment of getting kind of slapped in the face with, oh my goodness, to, okay, let's immediately move to what can we do. And sitting here looking at my mom and my sister, I know that I got that from my family of, okay, now what? Now what? So fortunately, we moved right into action, and treatment took place, and we eventually got to the place of having a transplant.
What kind of transplant?
I had a stem cell transplant where I used my own stem cells. This was after having a great deal of chemotherapy and radiation, and yet the cancer kept growing. And so I had a transplant. And going into that transplant, I had a confidence because I kept going back to my knowledge of unity and what I had learned here. And I felt pretty confident. Went through the transplant. It was very hard, and my mom was my caretaker. Took a long time to recover. There were a lot of ups and downs and pneumonias and different things like that. But I eventually recovered, and for a short while was in a type of remission. And then it was only after, I think after the first 100 days, I found out that the cancer was back. And each time the cancer comes back, it comes back more aggressive and stronger. And at that point, I thought, okay, you get slapped down. It's like, okay, now what do we do? Well, another transplant. So I went through all the really aggressive chemo and all of that. And then I thought, okay, what are the principles of unity? First time I thought about it, but maybe I did not practice them quite as mindfully as I should have. And so I tried to incorporate more meditation and just thinking about Myrtle Fillmore and what she said, and saying the prayer we say, especially the last part, a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, a peaceful spirit, was kind of my mantra. And I felt like that kind of raised me up a little bit more. And went through the transplant and was able to survive that. Once again, my mom was my caregiver. Well, and prior to that transplant, I met my partner at a coffee shop, and she took a chance on me, which was kind of amazing. And now we've been together since that time. And so she's been part of the Humphrey team. So the transplant was successful, and I was recovering. And then about 100 days later after that, the cancer came back.
The third time.
Well, yes, I got the cancer, had a transplant, got the cancer again, had a transplant, got the cancer again. And at that point, I wouldn't say that I had a depression, but for a brief time, I questioned my faith, and I questioned I just kind of questioned, it's like, I must have done it wrong. I must not have believed the right way, or I must not have practiced it the right way. I had those thoughts, even though they didn't last for a long time. I really kind of questioned. After that transplant, I really thought that the cancer was really more my fault.
So you took on a semblance of guilt?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of guilt. And this should be something that if I really believe in the principles of unity, I should be able to fix it, because I know that we're just cells, and we're constantly renewing, and that by having the right thinking and the right mindfulness and all that kind of stuff. And then I would think back, it's like, oh yeah, it's that time I got really mad at the kids and yelled. That must be why, because I lost my cool or something like that. And then, fortunately, I was able to move from that as I was moving into a third transplant. And this one was much more serious. This time I needed to use a donor's cells, and we were fortunate enough to find a match that lived across the street from me, and that happens to be my sister. And so it's amazing just how, there was a thing on Sunday morning, this morning, the TV program about luck. And a lot of the things in my life have been kind of a string of kind of almost like bad luck, but with exceptionally good luck following. So with that transplant, and that was a serious one, I needed to be away from my family and my friends. I had to go to New York City to Memorial Sloan Kettering for a clinical trial. And it was a high-risk transplant, but I'm considered a high-risk patient, I guess. And so we decided as a family, this might be the best chance at this point. So I had that transplant, and I had to be out there for 4 months, and my mom was able to come out and take care of me that entire time. I was really not even capable of doing anything. The first part of it, I stayed in the hospital, and then the last part, we were able to stay in the American Cancer Society's Hope Lodge in New York, which was really amazing. But with my mind leading up to that transplant, and all during the time that I was in the hospital, my feelings changed to the unity principles, but figuring out what is it that makes, how do I use the principles to uniquely help myself, to uniquely address me, the person that I am. And then I started to, instead of thinking about, you know, what Myrtle Fillmore would say, you know, I I would try to think about it more and how it affected me. And I would have visions, like my mom would know better than I do on this, but I think I was hooked up at one point to at least 8 chemos, IV bags of chemos for, was it 8 days in a row? I mean, it was just a really traumatic episode for my body. And the idea is to kill everything within your bones, because that's where the cancer is. So it's very aggressive and very intense. And so, but I tried to make it so it was more, so I would envision me in a river, like going down a river. And it was a river of chemo in my imagination, but it wasn't necessarily a bad river. It was beautiful. It was very rough, and you know, the current was swift, but it didn't feel dangerous, and it felt like a good time being out in nature. And so that's what I would keep envisioning, and knowing that as I'm going down that river, the cancer cells are just being kind of washed away. And I have been really blessed and fortunate in that my 3rd transplant was 3 years ago, and I am still currently in remission.
Yay.
So, yeah. So, so for me, the thing that I have tried to figure out is that I just really have to make it personal. I also have to really pay attention to my body. And I know, like right now I have a sinus infection, and I'm very, very sensitive to illness. And my body does a very good job of letting me know when I'm not well. And sometimes my body lets me know before I actually even realize it. I can become more irritable, you know, not sleeping well, and all sorts of things. So for me, real spiritual, as in whole health, is taking really good care of myself, as far as like trying to drink as much as I can, recognize right away if I'm out of sync in my spiritual, in whatever way. I use it kind of more of a holistic, because it seems really all connected to me as far as my spirituality and my health and just me moving around. But that's been the thing that I've really been trying to focus in on as far as now in my life, what I can do.
And was there ever a time when you thought you were going to die?
There were a couple times in the hospital that I did. And for anyone who's been treated for cancer and's been on prednisone, we all joke about prednisone because they put you on a really, really high dose of prednisone, and sometimes people have to be placed in care because it causes you to become just very mentally unstable. And I had pneumonia and was in the hospital. And I did kind of feel like at one point in the middle of the night that my spirit was leaving my body. And that was kind of a bizarre thing. But when I have felt the worst, where it felt like if I decided to, I could die just by saying I'm just ready to
giving
go.
up.
That's the time when, for me, I would say a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, a peaceful spirit over and over. And that, for some reason, is a saying that has meaning for me. And I would feel this complete relaxation and a comfort, even if I was in excruciating pain, or sometimes I wouldn't sleep for 4 or 5 days in a row. And when I could get myself to say that, especially when I was in the hospital, I would just completely relax and fall into a peaceful sleep. So that was something I was able to find for myself that worked. And I think that's what's important, to have those kind of things. I never have been the kind of person that's, would have a saying or something like that. But for me, it really did. I felt like there was a chemical altering experience in my brain. And,
For the people in the audience that may be going through a problem now or an incredible challenge that just seems like it's too much, whether it's physical or whether it's a family problem, what advice could you give them to allow them to maintain a sense of perseverance and optimism, knowing that they'll make it through?
well, I think you have to find what works for you and realize that it's not always going to be perfect. But sometimes you have to say, in 5 seconds, it's going to get better. Because if you're undergoing a procedure that's that painful, you have to just give yourself in 5 seconds. And then there's other times you can say, okay, in 5 minutes, it'll be better. And my family knows well that many times I'll say, tomorrow I'm going to feel better. And it's kind of if you can constantly try to get yourself, when you don't feel like you're in that moment, in that place, tell yourself that you will be in a very, very short time, or at least in a very soon time. And then when you're in that moment, I think about my poor veins. I'm sure I've probably been, I don't know, over 1,000 times I've had my blood drawn or IVs and things like that. And, it's when you have all these procedures done, you just know it's just a temporary thing, and soon it'll be over, and then you'll go on, and things get better. And you get to see the sunshine. And there are times where I could not do anything. My parents had my sun porch in my house. They redid my sun porch for me because I really couldn't be out there because there was carpeting and I couldn't be around the mold or anything like that. And there were times I remember I would just go out and sit and just look outside. And for me, that was really all I could do. But in that moment, I would say that was enough. So just being is enough. All the other things will come along. And I know I'm uniquely blessed with all of my family and my dad as well, but he's at another church teaching Sunday school, so he couldn't make it today. But you have to surround yourself with good people, family and friends. You have to, for me, I totally accepted everything that my doctors said. I would question things, but I knew that I had the best team of doctors possible. And then in conjunction with my doctors, I also knew that I had Unity and Unity Temple and the principles. And I knew that with those things combined, I had an incredible, I was safe as kittens, what do they say? I could do it.
Yeah.
And because my sister, when I was in New York City, she was able to have the kids, take care of the kids, and her husband, David, during that time, I could just be and recover. And then my mom would take care of me, and I just knew. So I was that's what I mean about lucky, blessed. We all have my cancer has put my family through a lot, but they've been able to support one another. And by doing that, it's made me be able to kind of focus on just moving step by step.
Well, you certainly are an inspiration to all of us, and I feel privileged that I've been able to stand on the side of your path of life and just watch you go through this. Because I think when you're in town, you're always at church. I mean, always sitting right up there in the same seat.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of you, and thank you for sharing your story with all of us.
Well, I'm so thankful for my Unity family. I don't know everybody's name, but I know most everybody's face, and it just gives me. I just love coming here. I was raised in a fabulous church that my parents and family members still attend, and it, you know, it's a great church. This is a great church. It's wherever you feel like you just are kind of comfortable and supported and at home, and I've been blessed to feel that way at both churches, and but I think I've been here just maybe a year or two shorter than you have. So
Oh, you're an old duffer.
I know. I've been sitting up there in that seat right up there, and so it's been a while, but I'm very grateful and very fortunate and very blessed, and I don't feel like I've done anything special, and I think that is because my family and my loved ones have supported me so much that I just feel like, you know, they kind of did the work. I just had to lay around with chemo bags and try to stay alive. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.